Hello and welcome to Immediate Immersion Live, where we're all about talking about comprehensible input and language teaching in the modern language classroom. My name is Scott Benedict, and we'll get right back to you right after the intro. And welcome back. Today we're going to talk about post-story and post-reading activities. This was a requested topic that people didn't know what to do once they finished a story or they finished a reading, or if they should do anything else to extend it. My personal idea is it's always a good idea to extend the activity as long as kids are still interested and kids are still engaged with the content. Once it starts getting old, it's time to move on to some new content. If they really haven't acquired the language from the previous content, you can rework it in a new story, in a new reading. So a different context, but the same stuff. For example, when I'm teaching in level 1, we are starting with the superverbs. Those are 6 verbs in most languages, 7 verbs in Spanish. They are is, has, wants, goes, likes. I thought I lost one. Is, has, wants, goes, likes. And I'm missing the 6th one. I can't think of the 6th one off the top of my head right now. But you get what I'm talking about. We spend a good 2 or 3 months just using those verbs over and over again, but in different stories. So they're going to have different class stories, different readings, different things that we're going to do because we want them to really know those 6 verbs over and over and over again really well in both present and past tense. So, as I said, if they're getting tired with one particular story, you can just change it up with a different story or a different reading, but still using the same vocabulary, the same structures to teach with. But as long as it's going well and they haven't acquired that vocabulary, then there's no reason why not to extend it. So here's my question always when extending stuff. Number 1, are they still engaged? If so, then it's possible extension. Number 2, have they acquired, not learned, but have they acquired the material that you wanted them to, the vocabulary and the structures? If they have acquired it, then there's no real reason to extend the activity. But if they need more time with the language, with the vocabulary, with the structures, then by all means, as long as they're still engaged, you want to find ways to extend it. And usually we're looking at fun, engaging ways for them to extend it. There are literally dozens and dozens of activities that you can do to follow up a story or a reading. Just type in Google post-story activities, post-CI activities, post-reading activities. Not all of them have to be specifically geared for second language acquisition. You can repurpose ones for traditional English classes or whatever the common language in the country you speak is. You can repurpose those. I've compiled today, for our time period that we have today, 6 of the ones that I like to do. 2 of them are my own ideas, and the other ones come from other teachers that I've worked with or have read blogs on or shared with. I'll tell you where I got them from. They may not be the originator of the idea, but it's who I got it from. I may not know the actual originator of the idea. I just know where I got the information from. And I did some research over the weekend to see if there are any new ideas. There's always new ideas popping up that you can use in your classroom. Some of these I have not done yet because they were new to me, but I'm like, ooh, that one's cool. I think that's an important one that we can incorporate in our classroom. So I'll talk about those as well. But many of them I have done in my classroom and have been very successful with them. But again, the idea is to get kids to stay engaged with the content. So the first one is called the pencil game. And I got this from my friend Carmen Andrews. We worked together for 7 years in Las Vegas. And she gave me this game called the pencil game. And basically what it is you're going to ask true and false questions about the content. Whether the content was a story, whether the content was a special person interview, whether it was a conversation, whether it was a reading, whether it was a novel chapter, it really doesn't matter. Anything that you can ask true and false questions about. You have kids pair up. If there's odd, then you're going to have one team of 3, and they're competing against each other. So you're going to have them have one single pencil. Now, it doesn't have to be a pencil. It could be any kind of object between them that they can grab. A pencil is just what usually every kid has, so it works really, really well. You're going to ask true and false questions. And the beauty about this is it's no prep. You don't have to plan it in advance. Pairs up, they get their pencil or the object that they're going to grab. You ask true and false questions. Now, if the question is false, then the student is supposed to grab the object, and the first one to grab the object gets a +1. If it's false, if it's true, So false, they grab it, +1. If it's true and they grab it, it's -1. And if nobody grabs it at all, nothing ventured, nothing gained, no plus, no minus. The winner is, at the end of the time that you have allotted for this, whoever has the most points. Now, it is possible that someone can win with negative points because they have less negative points than their partner. But that's the pencil game. It's a great review game that you can play, as I said, with any type of material. It works to do anything. And it's very versatile. It requires no prep. And it's really easy, and the kids enjoy it. Any questions or comments about the pencil game? Has anybody played it before? Go ahead and put that in the comments while we're working on the next one. The next activity is called Grunge Ball. This is one that I've not played, and I got this off Martina Bex's Comprehensible Classroom website. If you have not been to Martina Bex's Comprehensible Classroom, I highly suggest you go to her website. It is a fountain of resources. Catalina says, yes, she loves the pencil game. Awesome. It is a fun one. I've been playing it for many, many years. It's just so easy and it's so versatile, and you can use it for just about anything. So awesome. Glad you're using it, Catalina. As I said, Grunge Ball is new to me. It's a form of basketball, and I have a couple of notes because it gets a little complicated. So bear with me for reading my notes. But I'm going to put also a graphic. Now, I got this graphic off of Martina Bex's website. So this is her image. I'm not claiming any rights to this image. But this is how she's explaining it. So the little circles off to the left are your questions. So you've got 20 questions or however many questions you're going to ask. And you don't have to post them on the board or anything. This is just so she can illustrate it. But then you're going to break up the class into groups. So she has like group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. Each group starts with 10 X's. So you see under each group name, there are 10 X's on the board. And then you have a garbage can or some other basket that serves like a basketball net. You don't have to have one for every team like she's illustrated here, but you want to have at least one. Then you need to make a marker where you're going to have your 2-point line. This is going to be a relatively close to the basket, so it's easy to make the basket, and that's the 2-point line. And then you're going to have a line a little bit further away, and that's the 3-point line. So how it works: if the students, you ask a question to the team. If they get the question correct, then they have an opportunity to make a basket. So you give them some kind of ball, like a Nerf ball, or it could even be a wadded up piece of paper as they illustrated here. Whatever you have works. They choose whether they're going to go from the 2-point line or the 3-point line, and they toss the ball. If they miss the ball, then they have to erase 2 X's off the board, but they cannot take them from their own board. The goal of this game is to be the one left with the most X's at the end of the game. So, if they get it correct, Steven says he also loves the pencil game. Awesome, Steven. Okay, so if they get it right, but miss the basket, they get to erase 2 X's off any team. It doesn't even have to be the same team. They just have to erase 2 X's. So they can do 1 from one team, 1 from another team, or 2 from the same team. It doesn't matter. If they make it from the 2-point line, they get to erase 4 X's. Again, they don't have to be from the same team. They can do any combination of 4 X's. If they make the basket from the 3-point line, they get to erase 5 X's. Again, they cannot erase it from their own. They have to erase it from some other team. Now, if they get the question wrong, they don't get to make any baskets. But they have to add 2 X's to any team other than their own. And again, it doesn't have to be on the same team. And this is where it's called grunge ball, because it's like the people who are winning, like getting the baskets and answering the questions, don't have control over their own fate. It's not like they get the question right, they make the basket, they get points. They're taking away points from other teams. And if they get it wrong, they're adding points to other teams, which means they're giving the other team more chance to win. Now, even if a team has no more X's, questions are still asked to them because they have an opportunity to get back in the game. What can they do? If they answer the question right and they make the basket from the 3-point line, they get to add 5 X's to their team. So they're getting 5 X's more. And the game continues until the time is up or you have a clear winner. So usually I would play for a specific amount of time, and then at the end of the time, whoever has the most X's, they win. And that would be grunge ball. Any questions? I know that one's a little bit more complicated. In fact, let me go ahead. I'm going to post the actual link to... if I can find where I posted it from. Here it is. I'm going to post the actual link to the instructions on Martina Bex's website. So here it is. So I would copy and paste that into a new tab so you have it for later and bookmark it. And bear with me just a second. I just spilled some soda on my desk, and I don't want my electronics to go crazy. So, that's Grunge Ball. If there are any questions, put them in the chat, and I'll be sure to try to answer them to the best of my ability. The next game is my own. Let me clear this off here. And it's called a scavenger hunt. This one takes a little bit of a prep. So you need to plan for it and have time to plan for it either the night before or before school starts. Either way. And so this game can either be used with a story or with a text. You're going to create sentences in the target language for the story or the text. So simplify it in some way. Come up with 10 or 15 sentences. And you're going to cut the sentences up. So like sentence strips. So let's say you're going to take this story that you did in class, or this reading you did in class, or this novel chapter you read in class. You're going to write 10 sentences in chronological order about the main things that happen. Cut them up into strips. Don't label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't do that. Once you cut them up, you're going to find areas to hide these strips in. So for me, I'm going to hide a few in my classroom, but I'm in a quad area of my school, so I'll also hide some outside in the quad. Don't make them obvious. The kids then, when you come into class, you're telling them they need to go find these sentences and they need to copy them down. They cannot touch the sentences. They have to stay where they are. But they need to copy them down, and then with their team, they're going to come back, and they're going to try to put them in chronological order. The team who has it copied correctly in the chronological order first wins. And what I like about this particular game is it gets kids to have to reread the text over and over again. So they have to read the text to copy it. Then they have to bring all the copies into the classroom. They need to combine them because their whole team is out there looking for different ones. Some may have gotten the same one twice. They need to figure out their list, and then they need to reread it multiple times to put them in chronological order as it happened in the book. Now, sometimes I like to twist it up. So I might tell them I want it chronological order from first thing that happened to last. But sometimes, just to trip them up, I'll tell them I want it last first and first last. So they're putting it in reverse chronological order. It gets them just to think a little bit more, and they have to read a little bit more to get that done. But I wouldn't do the reverse chronological order until they played it with the regular chronological order a couple of times. But as I said, I like this one because it allows them to read it. Even if it was an oral story, they're having to read the sentences multiple times to be able to win, to get them, to copy them down, to put them into order, and then bring them to me to see if they are correct. So I really like that one as well. And as I said, that one I came up with myself. And if you don't have like a quad area or a hallway area where you can have them go, then just hide them around your room. But be creative. I have taped them to the ceiling with a broom handle. I have put them on the underside of a chalk sill. I have put them along a chair leg. I have found all kinds of places to put them to find different ways of hiding them. Outside is much easier, but if you're restricted to your classroom, there are many creative ways to be able to hide the sentence strips. Any questions about scavenger hunt? Okay, I don't see anybody typing, but I'll give just a moment just in case as we move on to the next one. This next one is the shrinking summary. And again, I got this one off of Martina Bex's website. Let me go ahead and get the link for this one for you as well. Give me a moment while I find it. The shrinking. There it is. Here's the link for that one. Put it in the chat and I'll display it up there. And if you guys are watching it from the replay, feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I do go back and check it. If you have any questions along there, I do check the chat frequently to make sure if anybody has any questions or comments or concerns. So the shrinking summary is, again, it can be an oral story or a piece of text. It really doesn't matter. But they're going to write a relatively detailed summary of either the story or the text. Then they're going to write a summary of the summary, shrinking it down, so making it more general. Then they can write a summary of the summary of the summary. So each time they do this, and I probably wouldn't go more than 3, if it's a really difficult text, maybe 4 summaries down, but each summary should be shorter and more general. And on her website, she has an example. And so she's got 3 summaries. So the original text, it's 2 summaries, but from the original text. Her original text says, Katrina was a valiant, loyal kangaroo that lived in Australia. Cornelius was an evil kangaroo that wanted to marry her, but Katrina wanted to marry Leonard. Cornelius was strong in power, but Leonard was strong in spirit. Leonard was kind. So that's the original text. And then the first summary is, Katrina was a kangaroo that lived in Australia. A kangaroo named Cornelius wanted to marry her, but Katrina wanted to marry Leonard. Cornelius was evil, and Leonard was kind. And then they took a summary of that summary, and they wrote, there were 3 kangaroos named Katrina, Cornelius, and Leonard. Cornelius wanted to marry Katrina, but Katrina wanted to marry Leonard. So they just did 2 summaries there, but I like to at least do 3, and if it's a really difficult text, 4. What I like about this, number 1, is kids have a trouble summarizing things. They just rewrite what's already there, and they just leave out a few sentences. That's not what a real summary is. So this helps them teach them what a summary is. And it's kind of like a reverse embedded reading, where the kids are coming up with the reverse embedded. They're starting with the complicated text. They're simplifying it, simplifying it, simplifying it, simplifying it as they go along. But here, again, it teaches them summaries, and they have to keep rereading the text over and over again to be able to write a new summary. they're not able to do it without rereading. So they're getting lots of input, lots of comprehensible input, lots of working. And if it started from an oral story, now they're getting textual input. So it's just a little bit different. So it's a great way to do that. Has anybody tried the shrinking summary before? Or grunge ball? I never asked you about grunge ball either. And I wrote grunge ball. It's actually called grudge ball. So that was my typo, not grunge. Let me know in the chat if any of you have tried either grudge ball or a shrinking summary. While you're doing that, let me get the link for the next activity. Where? I don't think I copied that one here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Back at ya. Comprehensible classroom. Okay, this doesn't have its own specific website just for that activity. It's on another page with a variety of activities. So here it is. But here, you again divide the class into 2 teams. And each team is going to throw out some sentence that reviews either the story, the text, the novel chapter, doesn't matter, whatever it is. The teacher will compile these, whether they write them on a document and project it on the board, or they're writing them on the board. So each team goes back and forth, adding sentences. And then, either as a class or each team separately, once you've got all the sentences listed on the board, can then put them in chronological order. And the first team that gets them correctly in the chronological order would win. Or the team who gives you the most sentences would win. And then as a class, you can now put them in chronological order. And you can do this in the target language. You can start with reading the first sentence and then say, in the target language, does this come before or after the second sentence? And then another part of your board, or if you're doing it digitally on your screen, you'll put them slowly in the correct order until they're finally, and you can keep doing this. Does it come before or after that sentence? Before or after that sentence, until you get it chronologically correct. If anyone has played the Back At Ya game, let me know in the comments. And I have got one more. And this one is mine. Oops, I forgot to even clear that one out. Okay. Is sticky notes. So this one I came up with. And I really like it, again, because it requires kids to reread the text over and over. So, we're reviewing, let's say we're reviewing, like right now in my class, we're reviewing a novel. We just finished a novel, about a week ago, and we're reviewing it right now. We're doing a write and discuss for each chapter. But then I'm not done with it because I still want my kids to work with the novel information a little bit more. So, I am going to have my kids take the whole novel, and I'm going to give kids each 3 sticky notes. If it's a shorter text, give them only 1 sticky note. But because I'm doing a whole book, I'm giving each child 3 sticky notes. They need to write in the target language, to the best of their ability, 3 sentences that tell what happened in the book or in the story. 1 sentence per sticky note. So if it's just a short story or a short piece of text, they'll only write 1. Then they're going to go post them on the wall in chronological order. So they're going to have to read the sentences the other kids wrote and find out if their sticky note goes before or after the other student's sticky note. Now, if they wrote about the same scene, then they'll just put this 1 sticky note on top and the other one underneath and the one underneath it there. So it'll be in a column if more than 1 student wrote the same one. Now you can have them write their own sentences, which practices a little bit about writing, or they can have access to the book and they copy those sentences. But key sentences, not like, really generic sentences that really don't mean anything. Key important sentences from the book, from the text, from the story. They copy those down on their sticky note and then they put them up there. So there's 2 different ways that you can do it. Then, to review it even further, you're going to go and ask the class, as you read the sticky notes out loud, you're going to ask them, is it in the right place in the target language? If they say yes, and it is, great. If not, lead them towards the right answer by asking leading questions. Or you can ask them, does it come before? If they say, no, it's in the wrong place, say, does it come before or after this other sticky note? Again, in the target language. So at the end of class, you should have all the sticky notes in chronological order from the beginning of the story to the end of the story, or the beginning of the novel to the end of the novel, or beginning of the chapter to the end of the chapter. But again, they're reading things over and over again. They're getting exposed to more comprehended input using the same verbs, the same structures that you've been working on. Any questions about sticky notes or any of the activities that I've mentioned so far? If not, does anybody have any other activities that they do for a post-story or post-reading activity? I'll give everybody a moment there's a delay, I know that it comes through. Okay, if we don't have any questions or any further ideas, that's all that I have today for those 6 post-reading and post-story activities. So I hope to see you guys next time. I'm not sure what our topic's going to be yet. I've got a couple on the play that I'm working on. I will send you guys emails and put the notification up on YouTube when I have the idea narrowed down, and I will post it, so keep a watch out for there. You are so welcome, Catalina. I appreciate you always showing up. And I hope to see all of you next week. And with that, I will say goodbye. Adios.